Small correction, I'm from Rochester Hills.
I'm sorry.
It's all right, it's close enough. In the mid-1990s, I spoke at the Midwest Conference on Asian Affairs and attended many Asian workshops from the Illinois Consortium for International Studies for a Fulbright Hays project on China, having the privilege of hearing University of Chicago scholar Anthony Du lecture on Chung and Wu's Journey to the West, an important source for my epic poem, The Parliament of Poets, which is partly set in South Asia and India, 2 chapters. So it's especially a pleasure to be invited to be a participant here today with the South Asian Students Association's International Book Fair and reading a little from my poetry on Asian themes. My interest in East and South Asia literature began in high school with a course in world religions in which I first read scriptures from all the religions of the world, including the Upanishads and Quran and so on. Actually, being a student who did the reading, didn't do much else in high school, but I did read. And from there, in the next decade, I went on to study Asian literature, culture, history at University of Michigan and elsewhere. And all of my poems, as a consequence of partly this interest here, developing, contain poems and essays grappling with classical Asian literature and culture and modernity broadly, East and West. Having lived in Japan then after my college days, so to speak, I'll read first from my first book of poems, Into the Ruins, a piece on what the Japanese call their national treasure, a wooden statue of Miroku Bosatsu, the Buddha of the future. Crown Maitreya. Early we rise and make our way across the congested, teeming city to the front main gate, entangled in electrical cables for the trains. Walk unchallenged past the clay statues of the guardians of Buddhism. The walls shun the noise of the traffic. Sweet coolness pervades the morning air. Here in the old capital of peace, we seek out this place of peace, Koryuji, temple of the Hata families after their long journey from China and Korea. The monks had finished their morning prayers, abandoned the temple and lecture hall to the daily influx of tourists. An old man sweeps stray leaves and sticks from bare ground and sprinkles water on the flagstone path. We wait patiently while these rituals are performed, talk of Shotoku's hall, his code of laws, his love of peace and harmony, of the great service he rendered Koryuji in Japan. Such a ruler hasn't appeared in centuries. The bronze door of the museum opens, we pay a pittance, walk in and skirt along the rigid, lifeless icons. We know what we have come to see. In the placid morning we stand, oblivious of time, enraptured by his beauty. Suddenly they arrive, bellowing, cackling, trampling the silence. We step back and let them rush by, their guides swinging a pennon, Nikons and cannons frantically clicking. Their national treasure captured for posterity. Off to one side, the old attendant watches from his post at the door. We wait for echoes to fade away. He shambles to the altar, rings a graceful bell 3 times, offers a prayer. We all acknowledge with a bow. In my next book, The Power of the Mill, is a book-length narrative poem that tells one story. Story of an academic, analytic philosopher who is grappling with the brutal murder of his wife, Mary. His high school friend comes, visits him, trying to help him grapple his way through his personal crisis. By telling him partly about his own trip to Asia, to Japan. Hey, I got down to the shrines in Kyoto too. I spent a weekend there with a young lady who was kind enough to show me around, if you get my drift. His eyes widening. A lot of holy shrines in that city. I've never seen so many chortles about to drink down his coffee. Oh, I can imagine, Peter retorted. Seriously though, David, I've read they're supported by the state. Great for tourism. You didn't see any pilgrims, did you? Nah, hell, they were all like me, gawking at everything, taking pictures, you know, the usual stuff. Souvenirs and so on. I had the time of my life. So much for the mystic East, eh? Peter needled him, sniggering. Well, they're a modern country just like us. Yeah, that's it, you got it. Buddha's deader than a doornail. But really, the temples are something to see if you ever get a chance. Did you get to Nara? Peter interrupted. No, but my friend wanted me to go there. That's another city full of temples, right? Right. Actually, it's where Buddhism had its start in Japan, at the royal court. A prince named Shotoku was its first prominent supporter and champion. He established a lot of temples, even some in Kyoto. Many still regard him as the crucial figure in Japanese history, a benchmark of change, if nothing else. He set the tenor of thought for centuries. As he put it, the world is empty and false, only the Buddha is true. Not exactly the ethos of a snack bar, is it? No, guffawed David, but people got to live their lives and get on, you know. They got things to do. They can't spend their time on their knees chanting prayers. No, of course not, Peter smiled. Say, did you happen to see in Kyoto a garden called the Floating Bridge of Dreams? It's from Japanese mythology in an old novel, The Tale of Genji, written just before the collapse of the late Heian court. No, I don't remember it, Pete. I had only a weekend, you know. Besides, I was pretty busy, he grinned. I spent half the night on the train to make it back to Tokyo for a sales pitch. I didn't know you cared so much about Japan. You've been reading a lot, eh? Not too much, really, but there are some people in the department who have been over there, a couple of Zen nuts. I've been fascinated by a few classical writers, Zeami and Basho, especially Basho. He's really the last pure expression of the sensibility of Shotoku. He died not too long after Milton, well, anyway, he's on the periphery now. David carried on for more than an hour about Japan while Peter listened intently, interrupting him at intervals to ask questions that seemed to have peculiar importance to him. Eventually, David noticed all the coffee was gone and felt self-conscious for running on so long about himself at such a time. My epic poem, set partly on the moon and around the world, includes 3 chapters on South Asia and India. And Apollo calls all the poets of the nations, ancient and modern, east and west, to assemble on the moon to consult on the meaning of modernity. The Parliament sends the main character to all the 7 continents to learn from the spiritual and wisdom traditions of humankind. On Earth and on the moon, they teach him a new global, universal vision of life. With Tagore at Kurukshetra from the Bhagavad Gita. We soon were over playing a wide field where 2 vast armies were ranked to battle, legions on either side for war, the carnage about to begin. So it seemed. Into this Tagore led me. Panic surged within me as I looked at him, and he peacefully looked back. Kshatriyas, warriors and princes on either hand, girded for the worst, stood ready to commence. And then I realized this was the war of the Marathas, Kuru seeking to destroy Pandavas and Arjuna, the rightful heirs of the kingdom. Not being of the warrior class, I confess, I felt very out of place as we landed on a small hill behind a red oleander overlooking the site of the battlefield. Not far away, I noticed a chariot alone between the armies, Hanuman's flag flying from it. Two figures standing nearby, engaged in talk, not battle, though some struggle waged in the soul of one, Arjuna, his charioteer, Krishna, attired in his glory, indescribable. Darshan not through a statue, but the living God. Out of sight, or so I hope, we watched, strained to listen, the conversation going back and forth, while I recalled their great words, treasured deep within my heart, the call to sacrifice and duty, the warrior's art, test supreme of every soul and metal. Arjuna put down his bow and arrows, and I became aware that we were not alone behind that bush. But now, at my elbow, to my surprise, I recognized a most incongruous figure, a purple New England man, Ralph Waldo Emerson, dressed in his dark suit, collar, and cravat, smiling serenely upon the stage. And I recalled and mulled over his lines, if the red slayer thinks he slays, or if the slain think he is slain, they know not well the subtle ways I keep him pass and turn again. I ended out, I, the hymn the Brahman sings, where nearby Krishna intoned it as well. Master, I said, you were my first teacher, guide. You opened the way for all of us walking away from the cowl of churchmen. The time has turned away from the oversoul. Tell me how to go on from here, how to raise a universal song for all mankind. A universal song like the morning wind. Smiling sweetly, gentle tolerance and forbearance, love and compassion, he said, what's a moment of confusion in the face of eternity? Shrug it off. The Eternal One is within every man and woman. You already know better than I that you must find your own way. Self-reliance. Now watch and listen, turning to the battle. Resolve strengthened in my heart, the call of duty as Krishna called to Arjuna. Remain poised into tranquility of Atman. And other snatches we were blessed to hear. Later, in another chapter of the wanderings in India, Cambodia, and elsewhere, Sun Wukong, the Chinese monkey king, takes the main character to the Mogao caves on the Old Silk Road. I followed him up and along the stairs and a walkway, sensing he knew the way, my monkey king guide, the heat of the sun now on us. I could feel the day coming on, hot and dry as an Arizona desert. With the sun, we entered the cave, Tang Dynasty, at its height, sumptuous detail everywhere, glorious art intimating a world beyond art, art its servant, glorying in its servitude, exalting in worship of beauty beyond beauty, the highest, deepest, true beauty, the good, the true, the beautiful made one. I felt it once again. Wukong silently stepped aside, stayed back out of the way, allowed me to move forward past the murals toward the niche, deeper into the western wall, where those before me reigned in splendor, glory, the Buddha Sakyamuni, his right hand raised and had no fear, though I was already far beyond fear, where no fear can ever reach. Taking in all the scene is sitting on an octagonal throne, Mount Meru, as it were, a center of the universe, cosmic mountain transcending the worldly plane, far from the mountain caves. Encircled with a nimbus of spiritual fire, his glowing nature made manifest, he sat in a lotus position, head erect and calm, peace and nobility emanating, resonant in his bearing, crowning essence. Long earlobes, intimating the princely world he left behind. Flowing robes, he seemed to float above the cave floor, above the world, while his companions stood on either side. To the left, flanked by Ananda, upon a lotus in humility. Service his garland in ceaseless sacrifice, tending to all, remembering all the Buddha's sermons. Thus I heard it said, Ananda passed down the Buddha's words to the generations, flowing out around the world and through the world, his hands held together in front of him, ready to serve, selflessness his station. To the right, flanked by Mahakajapa, an old monk, mendicant, look on. Peace to and surrender, service and protection, his boon, perhaps smiling faintly. Buddha's flower sermon lingering in his mind. Chan and Zen enveloping his mind and life, successor and convener of the Sangha. Buddha entrusting him with the Dharma gate. No words or letters, the form of the formless, a transmission beyond remembered scriptures, experience, not letters and creeds. Bodhidharma, his successor, the Lotus Sutra passing to all lands. Next, both sides, faces in meditative bliss, curving brows and jewels, lotus-flowered robes, Avalokiteshvara, Guanyin, Kanon, compassionate, standing, heads leaning toward the Buddha, their Buddha nature emanating, delicacy of detail. Much as showing the way to light, protection, compassion. Flowing toward all creation, sustaining, enlightenment foregone, leading all toward it. Supreme sacrifice for humanity, that all humanity might find mercy, love, compassion from suffering on the road of life. Exquisite robes and sashes, coiffures, jewels, symbols of experience, calling all onto experience. Raising, transforming, saving all from peril, purely guiding to the Pure Land, as if saying, praise, call, intone, Guanyin, Avalokiteshvara, Amitabha for deliverance, all may reach the Pure Land. Last stand the guardians of Buddha, Vajrapani generals, image of the Buddha's power, protecting him from the demons of our nature, girded in warrior armor, ready to defend, tread underfoot, Ignaros, forms of the Buddha's form, Guanyin. Spreading his and her protection care, once holding staffs and weapons, soon moved calm in a different form. The Tang pantheon complete, raised to the highest heaven, nirvana wrought at its best in painted clay, artistic form of highest form, in the heart of the cave, the Tang cave too, a map of the mind.
Thank you.